and welcome to the Hobo CEO podcast, where we're talking all things business and entrepreneurship, including the highs and lows, with a sprinkle of neurodiversity for good measure. I'm your host, Shae Wassell, neurodivergent serial entrepreneur, personal and business coach, author, researcher, and most importantly, a mother to one beautiful little human being. This podcast is all about sharing the entrepreneurial journey, as well as tips, tricks, and advice from my guests to help you become the business owner and entrepreneur you've always imagined you could be. And you definitely can be that person. But before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge the beautiful lands on which I live and work, the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. And I pay my respects to elders past, present, and to all First Nations people that are listening today. So let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Hobo CEO, though I feel like this podcast is actually going to have to be distributed across both the Hobo CEO and the Dear Dyslexic podcast show, because the topics we're going to discuss today are relevant across both audiences. And so cross-sharing, I think, will be very helpful for all of our listeners today. And Raffy and I have been talking now for about 15 minutes, and I kept saying we have to start recording because this is gold conversation. So Raffy is here today, and we're going to be talking about inclusive practices in small business and also what drives us as businesswomen. I was very, very privileged and fortunate to meet Raffy through the Fempire program, and we've stayed in touch, and I've watched Raffy just go from strength to strength in the last 18 months since I've known her. She is a super powerhouse of the ACT, an amazing leader and a very kind, caring, passionate woman, and I'm really excited to have you on the show. So thank you for giving up some time today to talk to me, Raffy, about all the amazing work you're doing.
I'm honoured, Shae. I really love your work, and I think it's a good time to start to walk the walk and not just talk the talk, I think.
We met through the Fempire program, and I think when we first met, you were just starting to get, would it have been your second or third business off the ground?
Yeah, I was actually, and this is actually all linked to the inclusive and diverse workplace. So to give you a little bit of background about me, so I've been in the automotive industry for the past 20 years with my husband. And so personally, I'm just a mum of two and also a full-time carer of Down syndrome, my brother-in-law. And it was always like one of my big passion is to create it, not just a business for profit, but just a purpose for profit. So I was always well driven into, okay, how can I use my business to actually making good? And now that we're coming into obviously turning nearly 20 on my business, my auto mechanic business, I thought I need to create something that I can continue on with my passion, which is to how can I actually empower other businesses to do what we did. And that was the journey with Fempire, which was creating my business coaching services. And so that's how Sage Advice came to life, which is, mind you, I came into the program with a big vision and I thought that I had everything mapped out, and I'm so grateful that I actually met all of you and Marnie from Fempire, because that gave me a little bit of a more clarity and structure. So we basically dismantled Sage completely to the ground and rebuild it. And now the biggest focus for us is actually to create a toolbox, a physical toolbox for the employer of either sole trader or like a small to medium businesses to actually be inclusive.
So exciting, and I can't wait to unpack that more. But originally you were from Italy?
Yes, I'm originally from Milan, and Milano. It's been 24 years now that I've been here. In last April was 24, so I've been more in Australia than in Milan. And again, I think it was always that insatisfaction for me to be in a place that he couldn't really use my potential to do good. So Australia was just 24 years ago, as you know, was like the boom. So it was really the lucky country. You could reinvent yourself. And again, always with the same objective, creating something, you know, for me to succeed in business, but also to have that purpose. And it's always been a passion of mine, helping others.
I only bring up the Italian component because my nonno was from Sicily, and we've still got family in Roma.
Yeah.
I love going back to Italy. It always feels like a second home, which is really weird to say, but there's something about it that I go, yes, this is my home.
Yeah, it's heritage, isn't it? I'm always saying that. Someone said to me, even recently, oh, don't you miss home? And I'm like, yeah, I do. But I'm always saying, I'm using this comparison. For me, Italy and Milan is my mother. So obviously gave me birth and teach me all the values and the right things, I guess. And then you got Australia, that is a little bit like my mother-in-law. So he accept me, loved me, get to know me. But you always got that sort of like, your roots are there. So I guess I will be always Italian at heart.
That's a really nice metaphor, isn't it? I really love that. Yeah, and it's nice to hear that Australia has loved you and welcomed you, and you've been able to grow an amazing business here. And automotive industry is not well known for female leaders.
No, we proud ourselves to actually include in. So one of our same marketing slogan is actually that I'm creating a different workshop, which is less black, more green, and lots of splash of pink. So in the last 3 years, we really focusing on sustainability. So we became very strong in waste minimisation in our industry. And as you know, it's very hard to sort of classify that as less black, but we try very hard. And also I'm very proud, very proud to have a lot of girls coming and doing ESPA programs and a school holiday experience. We currently have about 4 girls doing a rotational school holiday, and we have a couple of apprentices. They are female, so we're really proud of that.
At Rethink Dyslexia, we are doing things differently. As a global leader in creating inclusive environments for adults with dyslexia, our commitment is to provide individuals with opportunities to live healthier, happier, and more connected lives. Through our range of tailored services, including coaching, learning and development programs, consultancy, and training, we are helping dyslexic individuals, businesses, and organisations to better understand and support their dyslexic employees. So if you're looking for insights, inspiration, and expert advice on dyslexia and how you can provide inclusive practices and environments, then head to rethinkdyslexia.com to find out more, or book your free consultation today. Yeah, one of my goddaughters wants to move into this space, and as you were talking, I was like, oh, I'll have to send her up to Canberra.
Yeah. Oh, they're fantastic. It's the passion. And you know what? They're creating the big change in the industry, because until now, obviously, it was very male-dominated industry, and it's been always hard, but I think having that little bit of a female brain is actually create a good balance, and it's actually increasing your productivity as well. So
yeah, and I think we're seeing it in, like road construction and all male-dominated industries. Women are starting to move in, and I think hopefully in time we see the flip where we have more men in female-dominated industries.
Absolutely. And it's all about, and this is why for me it's very important to, when we say an inclusive and diverse workplace, it's such a broad word, isn't it? Like it's not just about the different ability, but it's also like creating that synergy where you can see a lot of female thriving and picking up industry that saying up to a few years ago was like oh no, that's not for a girl. So but yeah, we try our best.
What was the driving factor for you to have an inclusive and diverse lens within the motor industry? Was it because there was a lack of women, or lack of diversity in colour and culture? And
definitely, I also my dad was also in automotive industry, so I grown up in automotive industry, and I remember being a young teenagers, and there was this shift when you used to walk into the workshop. All the guys will look at you like saying, "You're not belonging here. Like, what are you doing here?" And since the very early age, I used to think, who says so? Like, who actually determines who's belonging to some places or not. They're conventional things. Pink is for girl, blue is for boy. It was always something that struck me. And I thought, you know what, I hope that I have the possibility one day to change that. And as life throw things at you, coincidentally, when I met my husband, he was a mechanic. So and I thought, oh, wow, I could actually unpack this a little bit more. And then again, coincidentally, I had a Down syndrome brother, which is, when we're talking about disability, is always cute when they're little, but then when they're grown up, they're facing really big challenges. And again, for Ricardo is 50 now. For me, when we started, he was only 30. And I thought, how can we actually give him a meaningful life, like be part of something? And so we decided to create our own business to give him the opportunity to be part of it. And in his own way, he thrived and he contributing a lot to us. And then from that, like I said, that was my purpose, creating that inclusive workplace. And what I would like to see from now is actually the big talk, which is we need to change the way we actually think about workplace. We need to unpack this and come up with a better, say probably not a better workplace, but we need to just keep up with the time. Yeah, like whatever used to work 20 years ago, it can't be used today. And this is, I think, the difficulty for small businesses. We keep tapping into the same pool of candidate when we're excluding like probably 4.4 million candidate that possibly they could be your employees. So I would like to really achieve that.
So how do you think we can support, especially I think sole traders or small business, because you and I both know that we are the jack of all trades. We are doing everything in our businesses. So how do we create the space for employers to have the capacity to think, okay, there's an untapped workforce that I could leverage here? And also how, what are some thoughts for them around it's not so scary after all? And we know you're busy, because I think time is a huge factor, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Time is a huge factor. But you say something to me in our previous conversation, which is it's always a good reminder. We need to really tickle into the curiosity of small businesses. And if you look in the dynamic of a small business, as you said, we're wearing multiple hats. Sometimes the time is actually the big factor. So if I would have a toolbox ready, so when I have the candidate coming in because I'm tapping into a recruitment agency, and they say to me, look, you got 4 potential candidates, but they can't do maybe the normal working hours, which is 40 hours per week. But would you rather to give it a go? And one of the things that I'm always saying, even when I do coaching to small businesses, is you need to really equip yourself with the knowledge. Once you really know what neurodiversity is or what diversity could be in a workplace, you're already starting with a lot of those myths and misconceptions that can actually sort of fade away. Because as you know, there is a lot of expert. Google is one of those really powerful tools, but sometimes it actually could be a big curse, because if you don't know what to Google it, you can actually get in information that can only scares you. So I think it's just creating that synergy between providers like you that have the knowledge to equip the candidate to be actually workplace ready. And then you have programs, which is, I will unpack it with you later on. So we're doing this My Career Portfolio, which is actually empowerment and also skills for students from school or even young individual that want to enter the workplace. And then on the other end, you need to have a support for small employers. That could be done by, say, business chambers, or it could be from ACT government or federal government or local governments. If you do creating templates that an employer can dig it in, and a little bit of directory where, if I do encounter in this situation, who can help me if an employer comes to me and he says, look, I'm really, keen to work, but unfortunately there is some stuff that it triggers me. So as an employer, the only things you see is only red flags, yeah, because you're thinking, oh my gosh, I wonder what it is. And then it starts creating that sort of like a vicious circle where the candidate doesn't want to disclose his ability or disability because he feels like I'm going to be judged and I'm going to be penalized. And then on the other side, you have the employer that he thinks all this misconception or, red flags that in the end is only about creating tools for me to operate in well. So I love your work because sometime I think what we need to do is, this is from a small business operator, I would like to have the resources available that I can tap it in, and I know that a professional can give me that guidance that would take away probably, not probably, 75% of my anxiety, knowing that I got a support. So I think it's important to create a resource available to all of it.
But so many ideas running through my head.
You are important.
And I think it's a really exciting space to be in, and I think we're on the cusp, but it's also really tiring because it feels like change is so slow. And getting people to see that you're going to create an amazing resource, and the programs that we've been running, it's trying to educate people without them feeling like it's all too much. And that's really hard.
It is hard, but I think, look, and I'm always starting from the basic, an honest conversation. So this is what sometimes I feel this provider are missing the point, because when you go into an employer and you keep selling it as a selling point, you need to open up your space and be more diverse because, let's talk about it. Neurodiversity is actually, they can bring more skills and more assets to your business that can contribute in higher places. But reality is, Shae, that sometimes it's no one rule fits all. And if I don't know how to equip that candidate to be a good employee and part of my team, I compromise the health and well-being of all the other team members. And you might lose in some sort of really upskills technician because you didn't include them into the conversation. So it's, it's like a little bit of a web. It's not just about the employer making the decision to be more inclusive. It's about give me the resource to be more inclusive. And then how can I actually train my team to be inclusive? Because I decide that. Is all my other guys on board?
And it's interesting you say that because we see all these jobs advertising for neurodiversity and neuro-inclusion, and we want people with disabilities. And, there's that paragraph down the bottom of please reach out to us if you've got a disability or a difference. Yeah, what we see is that this recruitment process is pretty good, but then they get into the job and the manager hasn't been trained on how to support them. And then it all starts to fall apart within the team for the person that was hired. And then you've got expensive performance management issues, or someone gets terminated within the 6-month probation. But I think if you think of it from a team perspective, like you were saying, and if we look at it from what are the strengths within our team and what is that individual bringing, and you're able to have those open conversations when a new employee starts, regardless of being neurodivergent or different in a non-neurotypical way,
absolutely,
then we can start to, I think, improve workplace culture and have those conversations that build trust and psychological safety within a workplace, big or small. Because if we don't have that, then it all falls apart. I'm Dr. Shae Wassell, and you have been listening to the Hobo CEO podcast. Head to rethinkdyslexia.com.au to find out more about today's guest speaker. To keep up to date with all of our news, follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And if you haven't done so yet, go to your favourite podcast platform, subscribe, rate and review this podcast. Join me next time for another conversation on the Hobo CEO.